Good evening, everyone. This is going to be my last commentary video for 2018. Lots of good stuff coming in the new year, I promise. Great live streams. I'm going to be upping the ante music-wise, lots more commentary. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. If you like the content, please do me a great favor and hit the like button, subscribe, and share. And I look forward to diving into this, full force come January. In the meantime, I'll do a few more music videos just for Christmas, that kind of thing. But this will be the last commentary segment. So tonight I am going to talk about something really important and really serious, and I don't think that my father would be too happy with me. He's very worried about me speaking about Islam because he's worried about my safety, and granted, he has every right to be. I've seen a lot of people, even just other YouTubers I know, that are getting persecuted pretty heavily, not just by the left and being called racist and everything else that, gets thrown out at you when you talk about anything, even if the word isn't accurate. Also getting called out by, jihadis themselves. So there are death threats and things that can occur, and you have to be careful. So I understand, but I didn't really pick this topic. It sort of picked me. I don't feel like I'm any kind of an expert. I'm not going to claim to be, just a concerned citizen and someone that sees things happening that would like to be able to talk it out. I don't like feeling like we're being censored. M103 is not law yet in Canada, but it is a motion, an Islamophobia motion. It's being now, it's allowed for a lot of money to be poured into it, studying, surveillance, all that stuff. And it's only a matter of time. So of course, when your government tells you not to speak of something, and when the propaganda and the news is very, very thick, pushing this idea that anybody who questions these things is xenophobic, bigoted, Islamophobic, etc., it's very scary because you start to feel like they're hiding something. And of course, you're going to want to learn more. Now, when I was a lefty, a liberal, I was always defending everything and everyone, even if I knew nothing about it, Islam being no exception. And of course, people would say, and I would say, you need to do more research and you need to learn more. Well, turns out when I actually learned more, I didn't get more comforted. I became more concerned. And it's not because I'm sitting there eating up right-wing, hyperbolic propaganda. Hardly. My concerns come from a far more personal relationship scale. So I've become friends with people and have been speaking with people who have spent their life dedicated to either studying this and working with this, or have gone through the hell of living in a majority Muslim country and don't want to see a lot of those practices come to the West where they have escaped. So the example of this is my wonderful, beautiful friend Iman, who is a Saudi Muslim apostate, and she lives in Canada. And she has been trying to warn people about, creeping Sharia and the idea of making sure that we hold on to culture. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with culture. And she gets called out on this all the time. Now, why tonight? Why tonight do I make this video, a few days before Christmas to end off my year on a really dark note? Well, because there's been a really horrific event in the news. Very, very recently, 2 young girls in Morocco were brutally murdered by 4 men that are affiliated with ISIS. It's a verified terrorist attack, Islamic terrorist attack. It was done in revenge of losing their brothers falling in Syria, the ISIS group falling in Syria. And these women were brutally murdered for basically being there to do some hiking in the mountains. It's an awful story, but it's not an isolated story. We hear of these stories internationally, some more than others. Of course, since 2014, we've heard of a lot of these stories elsewhere, such as the pretty much everywhere in Europe, I guess, but the UK I'm thinking of, and particularly France. France has been really nailed, death toll-wise. It's been pretty awful. There's some pretty bad numbers out there when you do start to read. And while Canada seems pretty safe, and therefore nobody thinks this is a problem, and everyone thinks that you're spewing conspiracy theory and fear-mongering when you talk about this, unfortunately, nobody seems to realize that if we don't take care and pay attention, we could be the next people that are dealing with some of this stuff. And some people in Canada would argue that we've already had some terrorist attacks. There's a lot of suspicion going around that maybe some of these attacks were not, in fact, what they said they were, mental health or whatever else. I'm not going to get into that tonight. I just want to talk more about my intention of why I talk about this at all, where my channel's going, all that stuff. But I do need to bring it up because it's really important. And Iman said something in her video yesterday. I'm going to leave her information, her YouTube video, podcast info, all in the description below. She's a fantastic resource. I really encourage you to check her out if you haven't already. Her last video, she was just expressing her concern for Canada. You know, what is Canada going to be in 5 or 10 years? Where are we going to be at? Can we honestly say that we know? And she said something, and I'm paraphrasing it terribly, but she said that it's really hard for people like them, people that are speaking out, particularly ex-Muslims. It's really hard for them to basically watch us spit in their face while they try to warn us. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. It's a pretty powerful thing to say, and she's right. You know, she gets called a white supremacist, for God's sakes, and she's not even white. It's ridiculous. And she's a lot more outspoken than I am, but she only speaks her mind, speaks the truth, speaks her experience, and she has a right to her opinion. And the amount of times that she gets called out by people in Canada that don't even know, that have no idea, I mean, it's just insane. And she's getting called out by people that think that she is an Islamophobe, even though she left it and just wants to stay free. When I hear stuff like this, I can't help but want to learn more. You know, I've started reading and listening to podcasts from Tom Quiggin. If you don't know of him, I will put his info in the description below as well. Fantastic resource on this. I spent a lifetime working towards it. Really great resume in this area. And the more that I'm learning, the more I realize that we don't need to be against Muslims whatsoever, but we do need to be concerned about this ideology. And there are quite a few people in the Western world that identify as Muslim that are not radicalized, but statistically speaking, internationally, the numbers are very high of people who aren't radicalized, but who are not necessarily opposed to radical ideas, things like honor killings, for example. And there's no place for those types of ideas in Canada. And what really struck me with Iman when I first met her, I wasn't sure of her yet. I didn't know, coming from being a lefty and learning a lot of things that weren't true and believing them as fact, I really am careful now, making sure I don't get duped. And she told me about a horrific story, a bunch of young girls that died in Saudi Arabia. And I didn't believe it at first. I thought maybe she was exaggerating. So I did a little research, and sure enough, it was brutally true. 15 young girls died. It's called the 2002 Mecca fire. You can look it up if you'd like. I don't recommend you do it if you have a weak stomach. 15 girls that burned alive because they left a burning building, were not wearing their proper gear, their proper religious attire to cover them up, and were put back in and locked in and died. And they denied doing this, the people that did it, but it was witnessed, it's verified. Just horrific. And that can never, ever, ever happen in Canada. Ever. And we need to be making sure that it's not. So if people want to come here from Muslim majority countries, that's fine, but they better be prepared to be Canadian, because if you start to import that ideology and that becomes a majority, what happens if our law starts to soften to some of these things culturally? It's a very, very slippery slope, and people like Iman are sounding the alarm and nobody is listening. So I'm here to basically publicly announce that I am listening. However, there's a catch. There's one catch to all of my conservative right-wingers that are listening to me. There's some of you out there that go beyond concern, that go beyond wanting to fight for goodness. This channel is about fighting for goodness. It's about fighting for what's right and finding the truth. Encouraging humanity. Encouraging individual thinking, not collectivist thinking. I hate collectivist thinking. And there are people that don't align with that. And I can sense them out there when I talk to you guys. There's a few of you. I see them seeping in and out of comment sections. I see it from afar in other comment sections. And I don't feel good about it. So when I talk on my channel about following my gut, my mind, and my heart, always all three, never without one, because I'll make a mistake. This is what I'm talking about. If there's people out there that start talking about hanging the Muslims, I don't want to hear it. People that want to call for violence, I don't want to hear it. People that call against the Jews, that's a big one, by the way. You far-righters, you neo-Nazis that actually exist, I know who you are, and I'm onto you, and you're not going to blackpill me. I know that people are targeting me because they think that I'm an open mind for this stuff, and I'm not. And don't worry, conservatives, I'm not going to call you a far-righter, but if you think they don't exist, you haven't seen the comments that I've seen. You haven't felt what I've felt speaking to some people. They're out there. And if they're a part of this channel, I don't want them here. And I will absolutely lose subs from this video, and I don't care. If we don't call out evil, it continues. And to the left, the message is you keep calling people neo-Nazis and bigots and xenophobes. You allow the actual evil fucks in the background to continue to thrive and spread evil. You diminish the words till they mean nothing, and then bad people thrive in the background. And I have to say, I don't want those types of people around me. That's not what this channel is for. This channel is about bringing goodness to fight evil. It's not about whitewashing it, but it's certainly not about that type of behavior. And I swear, if you think I'm going to believe that the Jews are behind everything, including discussing immigration and Muslims, I don't want to hear it. And if that means that I'm stupid and you think that I'm ignorant and I'm going to die not knowing the truth, I'd rather die than thinking that one group of people is collectively evil and behind everything, because last time I checked, that got a few people brutally murdered. So, now that we're clear on that, I denounce neo-Nazis. I denounce the far right. And you know who you are. I'm not interested. That's not what this channel is about. And if I talk about multiculturalism and I talk about Islam, it's because of verified concerns of evil spreading. So with that cheery note, I will wish you all a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays if you want to be PC, which I'm generally not, so Merry freaking Christmas. I hope you have a blessed rest of your year. If you do feel like I'm someone that aligns with your values, if you feel like these are the ideals that you want to follow, goodness versus evil, please do join this wonderful community that I have built up here. Really great people in those comment sections, and I'm not calling anyone in particular out, but my intentions are good, and I don't want dirty, sick, racist, vile, evil intentions following me around, and I certainly don't want them thinking that they can change me. You can't. You can't. I'm rooted in love, and I'm rooted in reality, and I will stand strong against both the lefties and the far righties. Many blessings to you all. As always, be good to each other, but never because the government tells you to. Take care, and I'll see you in the new year.